The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Everybody hears you on Limbaugh when you fill in for Rush in that distinctive voice. But talk a little bit about yourself before we begin to speak about the new book.
Well, I like doing radio, but I think it's a very different skill set when you basically come out of your cave and down from the mountains to guest host once every 6 weeks. That's a very different skill set from doing it 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, year in, year out. So I'm very grateful for doing that, but it's not my principal activity. I've been a writer for a long time, and I've written all over the world in Canada and the United Kingdom and Australian newspapers. And that's a whole sort of hinterland, as it were, behind the guy who does a couple of hours guest hosting once every 6 weeks or so.
And regardless, I mean, you have a foot in our world, but where exactly did you grow up in your education, and how you arrived at the position you've arrived in now?
Well, I was born in Toronto. And at the Wellesley Hospital, which is named after the Duke of Wellington's family, and it's not there anymore. They razed it to the ground and salted the earth after I was born. They didn't want to take a chance of that happening again.
But at least at least we know the name of the hospital, unlike the president that you were born in.
That's right. And actually, I do have, oddly enough, as a condition of my presence in this country, I did have to provide my long form birth certificate. So I don't know whether I'm ready to go full birther, but I think it's slightly odd that to be me, if I want to come to the United States, I have to provide a long form birth certificate. But if I want to run for president, any old photocopy from Kinko's will do.
Well,
so I find that a bit odd.
You know, it's interesting. You're speaking to a full-blown birther, and I say this: Barack Obama could not pass E-Verify. He's never given enough credentials, or what people call your verifies of your life, that this man, the President of the United States, could not pass E-Verify. You don't know his Social Security number is phony. Everything, his selective service number is phony. Of course, his passport's been deep-sixed.
And you're absolutely right, Peter. I mean, what I find odd is when people present it as a crazy conspiracy. I don't think it is crazy. I think it would be the sort of thing that could happen very easily. And if you're audacious enough, you could, and you had the cooperation of a relatively small number of people, you could do very easily. Peter O'Toole, the great actor who starred in Lawrence of Arabia, who died a few months ago, he had a valid birth certificate stating that he was born in Ireland and a valid birth certificate stating that he was born in England. And he didn't know which of those, and nor did anyone in his family, didn't know which of those was accurate.
But, you know,
and it's not that difficult to happen. And so this idea that somehow anyone who thinks that it would be difficult to obtain a fake Hawaiian certificate of live birth is someone who just doesn't know how these things work.
Or better yet, that his father's race was African. Now, African is not a race.
Right.
And that's, if you look at the birth certificate that they submit, which is a digital forgery, that says father's race, you can't find another black kid in Hawaii 10 years on one side of it, 10 years on the other side of it, that uses African as a race. African is not a race, but and then I want to take away from your message this morning, but I believe that some politically correct hack working for the president or working around Valerie Jarrett, who can't say colored, who can't say Negro, because those were the words that would have been used. So he creates, I call him Jimmy down the hall, Mark. He's this guy that I call Jimmy down the hall, and Jimmy down the hall made that birth certificate. I'm convinced of it.
Yeah, and puts in, as you say, an anachronistic word that people would not have used in 1960. But you know, I've got a whole little section on my book about what is the fascinating thing about Obama is that he's a man with this mutable biography that is just whatever happens to suit him at the moment. You know, so for example, for whatever it was, for over 15 years, his publicist found it convenient to promote him as a man born in his official biography as
Kenya.
a man born in Kenya.
And remember this, because I spent too much time with this. He wrote that biography, and she now says that she did it. Now think Now think of all the places in the world, Mark. Why would she choose Kenya if she was making up a story?
Yeah, no, I know. It's like again, it makes no.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.